The longest winning streak in tennis history. The most Grand Slams ever won. The longest reign at the #1 spot in the tennis rankings. You'd agree with me that all of these records have a masculine feel to them. But what if I told you that all of these records in the tennis world are held by women? If there's one thing we can't deny, it's that women hold up half of the sky, and the tennis world is no exception. These are the 10 greatest women tennis players of all time. And we've gotta kick things off with Evonne Goolagong, because even though she gets overlooked a lot, Evonne is one of the best players the game of tennis has ever seen. At number 10, Evonne Goolagong. Now, Evonne Goolagong may not always be the first name on everyone's lips, but make no mistake, folks, she is one of the absolute best to grace a tennis court. This Australian dynamo held the tennis world in thrall during the 1970s and early 1980s, which was one of the most competitive periods in tennis history. She made her big debut in 1970 by clinching her first Grand Slam title at the French Open, and then won the Australian Open just a few months later, this time with Margaret Court by her side. And you know the best part? She was just 19 years old at the time. But hey, you know what they say, age is just a number. The very next year, Evonne waltzed into Wimbledon and snagged the trophy without breaking a sweat. Throughout her career, the Australian boasted a staggering win-loss record of 704 to 165, with a total of 7 Grand Slams in singles and 68 career titles. In 1980, Evonne also became the first mother to win Wimbledon for 66 years. Now, if that doesn't tell you how good she was, I don't know what will. And speaking of good, the next player wasn't just good, she was downright incredible. We're talking about Justine Henin at number 9. Straight out of Belgium, Justine is the literal human representation of small but mighty. Just in case you're wondering why, the Belgian has a very portable physique. But at the same time, she's one of the toughest players you'd ever find in the tennis world, both mentally and physically. Her on-court agility is out of this world, and her one-handed backhand, let's just say it's simply a work of art. I mean, even John McEnroe couldn't help but describe it as the best single-handed backhand in both the women's or men's games. Sheesh! It's no wonder that she wore the crown as the world #1 for a staggering 117 weeks, boasting a jaw-dropping win-loss record of 525 to 115. And her trophy cabinet? Let's just say it's a dream to behold. We're talking 50 career titles and an impressive collection of 7 Grand Slams. And to top this incredible achievement off, Justine raked in over $20 million in prize money. Now that's insane. But you know what's even more crazy? The next player on our list was so incredible, she made over 2 times what Justine made. At number 8, Venus Williams. It's nothing new that the Williams sisters were one of the strongest doubles teams the tennis world has ever seen. I mean, 14 Grand Slams in doubles is not something you see every other day. But you see, as individual players, they were both also unstoppable. Take Venus, for example. The American tennis player has 49 singles titles, 22 doubles titles, and 7 Grand Slam titles to her name, including 5 at Wimbledon and 2 more at the US Open. And to think, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Because back in 2002, Venus didn't just reach #1 in the WTA rankings. She also became the first Black American to achieve that since the 70s. She definitely earned a ton of respect with that win. But you know what else she earned? A cool $42 million in prize money. And honestly, we won't be surprised if she cruises past the $50 million mark before she decides to hang up her racket. Now that's something only legends can pull off. And speaking of legends, this list would be incomplete without Billie Jean King at number 7. You see, back in the day, women were treated like third-class citizens in the tennis world. But the 70s marked a turning point when women joined forces to champion gender equality in sports with one voice, and that voice was Billie Jean King. But Billie wasn't just a voice, she was a beast on the tennis court. Even when Bobby Riggs tried to shut her up by saying that a woman's place was in the kitchen, Billie made it her mission to prove him wrong. And boy, she did it without even breaking a sweat. But that was just the tip of the iceberg for Billie. Billie's tennis legacy is nothing short of astounding. She racked up a staggering 129 career titles and clinched an impressive 12 Grand Slam singles titles. It's no wonder she was inducted into the Tennis Hall of Fame back in 1987. And you want to know who else deserves a spot in that hall? Monica Seles at number 6. Back in 1990, the tennis world stood still and witnessed a 16-year-old annihilate the almighty Steffi Graf with a scoreline of 7-6, 6-4 to win the French Open. With that win, she became the youngest person in history to win the tournament, a record that still stands till this very day. That 16-year-old was Monica Seles. But Monica was just getting warmed up. In less than 3 years, she went on a Grand Slam spree, snatching 8 more singles titles, including 3 more French Opens, 3 Australian Opens, and 2 US Opens. She also held the world #1 ranking for an astonishing total of 178 weeks. Unfortunately, Monica's career took a drastic turn after she got stabbed by a maniac on the court. Man! But if we're being real, Seles would have probably been #1 on this list if that terrifying incident didn't happen. However, even so, Seles' grace on the court was so memorable that she was inducted into the Tennis Hall of Fame back in 2009. Now, Seles was graceful on the court, no doubt, but when it comes to grace, no one comes close to Chris. At number 5, Chris Evert. Now, Chris was a completely different breed on the court. From the mid-1970s into the early 1980s, Chris Evert was nothing short of a baseline juggernaut. Combine that with her two-handed backhand that could send shivers down any opponent's spine, and she completely ruled women's tennis with an iron grip. Evert's record is a testament to her dominance. She still holds the record for the most Grand Slam singles finals appearances with an astonishing 34, emerging victorious in 18 of them. But what's even more astounding is that she bagged each major tournament at least twice. And the icing on the cake? Chris ended the year being ranked #1 player in the world for 7 freaking years! She also had a career-winning percentage in singles matches of over 90%. Now, if that didn't make your jaw drop, then you're going to need medical attention getting your chin off the ground after this next one. At number 4, we're talking about Margaret Court. I mean, come on, with a last name like Court, you know she's gonna be a powerhouse. Margaret currently holds the record for the most Grand Slam singles titles won by any player, with an incredible 24 championships. A record that still stands almost 40 years later. This alone sets her apart in the history of tennis. But that's just the beginning of how much this GOAT achieved. Because back in 1970, Court achieved a calendar year Grand Slam where she won all 4 major championships in a single year. You see, one of the things that made the Australian stand out was her versatility. She could easily adapt to any surface, and as a result, she won Grand Slam titles on grass, clay, and hard courts like it was a walk in the park. Now, speaking of record breakers, you want to know who we can't forget to mention? At number 3, Martina Navratilova. While Court currently holds the record for the most Grand Slams in a singles category, Martina holds the Open-era record for the most career titles, with 167 titles in the bag. And when it comes to Grand Slam titles, Martina is the real deal. The Czech player dominated women's tennis from the late 1970s through a good portion of the 1980s, with 18 Grand Slams in singles, including a record 9 championships at Wimbledon alone. Wow! Now, the only one who could beat this record has to be none other than Steffi Graf at number 2. Steffi is an absolute badass in the world of tennis. I mean, what could be more impressive than holding the #1 spot for a record-breaking 377 weeks, the longest time any player has held the #1 spot in both men and women's tennis till this very day. And that's not even the best part. You see, Steffi is also the only player to have won each of the 4 Grand Slam tournaments at least 4 times. That includes 7 Wimbledon titles, 6 French Open titles, 5 US Open titles, and 4 Australian Open titles. Steffi made the tennis court her personal playground, and it was undeniable with her style of play. She was like the Swiss Army knife of tennis players, always ready for the job with the right tools. And now that we're down to number 1, I bet you know who it's gonna be. That's right, no other woman plays tennis quite like Serena Williams. We're talking about a woman with 23 singles Grand Slams, 14 in doubles, 73 career titles, and 319 weeks at the number 1 spot. If there's one thing we can't deny, it's that when it comes to tennis, Serena Williams is the queen of the court. I mean, she won a Grand Slam even when she was pregnant with her first child. Serena's incredible longevity, combined with her impressive 23 Williams League on the court.